able to be here today. So for all the friends who are here, the friends who are near, and those who are far away, I invite you to take a moment to get grounded and centered. Take a nice, big, deep breath. We actually have some essential oils over here if you would like them. And bring yourself to a grounded, centered state that allows your heart to be fully open and your spirit to be fully present. If you were able to spend even a moment of time with Mark, you knew that he had a daughter he was so proud of. Her name is Meredith, and she is here at the table, and she is holding the container. It's a lovely container that has, as she calls it, my dad in it. So there is his ashes present here with us, but I'm sure he is spiritually here present with us too. There are 3 grandchildren. They are all here today. Austin is over on that side, and Brindley is over on this side, and I believe Ava is out taking a walk. And so if you know Mark, you knew he also played with them and energy with them. Mark also has 2 brothers and a sister here in attendance today. Mike and his wife Tina. Glenn, who is over there, Sister Kim over here, and somebody else who Mark was very fond of talking about, and I'm so glad he's here today, is his boss, and that's what we're always going to call you, his boss.
We worked together.
Worked together for, I don't know, 15 years, even though he worked for Tobin for like 45, right? So this is Dave. All right, so Mark and I go way, way, way back. We met in the 1990s when we both attended energy medicine classes. If you know Mark, you also know he was not the guy who said, hold my beer. What would he say? Would you like this ball of energy? We've been very close ever since. He lived with us for about 1.5 years, and during that time, oh, the stories I could tell. I found out he loves the Bengals, and he loves the Super Bowl game, and he loves energy shares and teaching angel classes, and we had a lot of laughs, but we also had a lot of deep and serious conversations. During that time, one of our dear friends, Jim Herman, his wife Donna is here today, he was hospitalized, and Mark and I, every day after work, we would sit down and we would work with Jim and we would talk with Jim, and it was really, really, really telling, because it let me know what Mark felt about life and death and transition. And I found out that he didn't just have a close relationship with Jim, that he considered Jim to be like a brother. And even after Mark and Jim's earth connection had stopped, their spiritual connection went on all the way through to the last day of his transition. I had told Mark about my dad's belief in death and transition, which was something he read in the Harry Potter book. Dumbledore had said, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. And Mark heard that and he went, now I'm going to try to do it like he does. He went, I like that. And he did. He really did. He kind of adopted that. 3 years ago, Mark shared with me some medical concerns that he was having. And now if you know Mark, you know his human health choices were about that big. He liked Reese Cups, honey buns, powdered sugar donuts, ice cream. What else? Donuts. What else? McDonald's. Hamburgers what? Burger King. Okay, did you anywhere in there hear a salad or a vegetable? Anything green would make him shiver. I'm not joking when I say he would shiver when we would tease him about eating a salad. It took me about 1 year to convince him to go to the doctor. And then he started putting his medical journey out on Facebook. And so you could follow what was happening with him. He did not like doctors at all, didn't trust them, didn't like hospitals. He liked energy work. And he really, really felt like whatever energy he could address for himself would be enough. I think he was very disappointed when it didn't work, as in his mind, it didn't work. It did, but it didn't. His friend Jim, in spirit, they would talk, and Jim would always tell him, at the end of this, you will be cancer-free. And he kept saying, I know I'm going to get a spontaneous healing. I know this energy is going to work. And when in July of 2 years ago, he asked me to go to the doctor with him, and we went, and he said that opened up the chapter of this journey for the last 2 years. And then when I took him to the doctor the last time, the week before he passed, he said, it's time to close this chapter. So off to the doctor we go, and he was so uncomfortable, and I'm sorry, he was so uncomfortable. And he told the doctor, it's time for this to stop. I'm open for an energy healing, I'm open for a miracle, but this is awful, and I wouldn't wish it on an enemy if I had one. And so that's when he decided. He went back to Walnut Creek and made a couple phone calls to family members and let them know what was going on. And it was after that he started playing in the energy fields. So like I was on a run, and I look up ahead of me and I think, well, that's Mark's face that just came in and out of the sky. How did he do that? And so when I went to see him that afternoon, I said, are you playing on both sides of the energy field? And he just looked at me like, And within a couple of days then, he had transitioned enough that Mark that we knew was no longer there. But as Meredith and I sat there day after day after day, and Dave, we watched, we prayed, we sent energy, prayed more, like please end it soon for him, because he was just so uncomfortable. And I cherish now all that time that you and I spent together at his bedside, because I learned who Mark was as a dad, not just as a tribe member like we all know him, but as a dad. And the stories she told me gave me a whole different perspective on who Mark is and was. The couple days after Mark transitioned, I was in the backyard, and had been asking for days, aren't you going to come and visit me? And so
I love the attitude.
Yeah.
Did you come and visit me?
Yeah, I was like irritated with him. It's like I said, come and visit. And so right then, I'm tending to plants, and there's a lot of bird activity, and they're making all this noise, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot today. And then I realized the birds are getting closer, and they're getting closer, and they're chirping now, and I think they're really trying to get my attention. So I stop and I look, and they're this close, 2 cardinals side by side, bright red cardinals. And I look at them and I say, well, who do I have the honor of being with today? And right away I see Jim Herman and Mark Hoops, and they're laughing. And they are playing around like you never see cardinals do. They're playing around, they're hopping from branch to branch, and I said, well, thank you so much. I am so glad I got to see you guys today. Have fun. And they flew off, and I never saw those cardinals again. But it told me he's good, he's fine, and he's back with Jim, and they're having a ball.
They were over last night.
What?
They were over last night.
Oh, tell more. Oh, no, just, but you knew.
No, they were over it last night. Over at my house last
Yes.
night.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So if you know Mark, you also knew he was not a religious man. So I'm trying to find biblical scripture that kind of captures his essence, and I really could not. So, I mean, seriously, I know he loved Jesus, he talked about Jesus all the time, but he talked about Jesus like he's my friend, not like he's that guy up there, right? And so I thought, well, what am I gonna do? So out of an old box of stuff flies this piece of paper. I don't know where it came from. It is not mine. It is a box of stuff from my mother. So I read it and I go, there it is. This is called The Garden of Friendship. It's a short poem, but it explains Mark in such a deep way that I thought I would share it. Friends are like flowers, each unique in their own way. You put them all together. What a wonderful bouquet. Some are really brilliant, full of light, sharp and clear, while others are more subdued. To both you can adhere. You are a flower in Mark's garden that makes up his bouquet. His friends, you all make a very impressive display. Mark enjoyed the earth, elements, nature, people, and sharing. And one thing he wanted in his celebration of life was for every one of us to have the opportunity to bring forth a memory, a story, or a roast or a toast. Didn't matter to him. What he wanted was for each one of you to be able to express. And so, on that note, I'm going to step out and ask any one of you, would you like to share something with the group and with Mark, because I'm sure he's here. And yes, come.
So, I'm Violet Wynn and chaplain with Hospice Vitas. It's my 9th year. I've seen so many people transitioning. But when I met Mark in that darkened room, I knew immediately he was very different. He said nothing when he started talking energy and Reiki and Hawaiian mysticism. I said, oh, well, me too. So we straight away started, But I said, then what is this journey? When you know so much, when you not know. You know in depth. You know how to do it. You just don't know about it, but you know how to do it. And it has always been that mystery, why it didn't work. This question mark. And at some point he will tell us. If we listen, good. If we listen correctly. But he reminds me of the people who are not afraid to go without a map. Like Lewis Clark, got in the boat, went among all kinds of elements, mapped it. Like Mikao Ushui, the founder of Reiki. He wanted to be a doctor. He didn't have the money or time to go to the medical. He went and sat on the mountain until it cracked into him, just do this and you'll be the doctor of the soul. Today, and I forgot the name of the guy who just exploded in the Titan, the founder of the Titan thing. He was a mark because he didn't know. Everybody says, you are out of your mind. I says, if you don't do something which is not by the book, you will never know more than the rule. That's who he is. And today, as I was driving from little lake thing 45 minutes away, I pressed on my radio and suddenly this Irish flute is coming. I say, how does this, well, it's from my recorded music, but I know I didn't go through the source channel. Let's go to this. Next thing that comes is Sinatra's I Did It My Way. I say, well, that is definitely Mark. And then the next one, because I just kept listening and wondering, as I always was, you listen and wonder about Mark. Maybe in the moment you will not know the answer, but the questions is a field of questions. And the next thing was Rory and Joey. Those are musicians, bluegrass and stuff, yeah. And she's singing the song that she wrote when she was with terminal cancer. And you will be okay on the day when I'm gone. Then I turned, I'm going just 48 and all kinds of nice routes, Bellbrook, and I just turned around, and here's this butterfly. I said, hi, Mark. So he's very alive. He will come and approach in different ways through that music. I would like Meredith to share if she can. He will teach us, and he taught me one huge big thing. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Even though you don't have a map, you didn't go through universities or seminaries or whoever, whatever. Don't afraid to be Lewis and Clark. Hallelujah, Mark. You left a mark in our lives. So be it. Amen. By the way, he said, I say, Mark, is it okay to pray in the name of Jesus? Do you connect? Oh yeah, he says. Yeah. There is much more there. If we read that book, there is so much more, and he knew how to connect. Not read the book, not read the words, but to read in the spirit in which it was written. And he is there laughing. Bless you. And as a hospice, we will be available for the whole family for the whole year. The next, there are all kinds of very deep grieving, and we can talk more about it at the right time. The next memorial, we do memorial services. So the next memorial service is going to be butterfly release in September. So it's coming. And I will send a flyer to Meredith even today. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and my condolences, my heart. But just when you open yourself to Mark, say, hey, I want to hear your giggle. And you will hear.
We need an upgrade.
Or I can hear your growl.
Yeah.
You don't have to come all the way up here if you don't want to. That's all right. There's a ceremonial fire back here at Zetheric, in case anybody hadn't noticed that. We're surrounded by ancestors. This is kind of hard for me, so bear with me. I met Mark about 15 years ago. We both would habitat places like the mountaintop, Reiki shares, oneness blessings. It just seemed like he popped up everywhere I was guided to. We connected on energy. We connected on everything Marvel, and just having fun with things. Anything fairy, anything animal related. One thing that we did together was heal children. Mark had a soft spot for children. The first time he met my son, he worked with him with energy and taught him how to make Wolverine claws. My son is 21 and still hasn't forgotten that, and he would have been here today if he could have been. The one thing that Mark really taught me was to break through your own boundaries. There are no limits. Explore and absolutely have fun with it. When I think of Mark, I think of fun, and I think of his quiet strength and his willingness to jump in whenever anybody needed anything. When I was going through my trials, Mark was one of the few people who jumped in. He sent his wolves to help me out, and that meant a lot. And I just honor him. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Yeah. So I met Mark about 10 years ago at Barbats at an energy class. And here was this man talking about giving us leprechaun energy, or no, unicorn energy.
Unicorn.
And he was talking to a leprechaun out in the yard. And,
That was at the farm.
Yeah.
That was out at the farm.
and he would give us an upgrade, and he would put his hands on our head like a triangle. And boy, you could feel the energy. And that was a really transformative time for me. And I believe he was part of that whole waking me up. But I remember asking Barbette, I said, is he for real? And she said, I don't know, but whatever he's got, he can put it right here. So anyway, great guy, and I was so happy to have known him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He was grumpy sometimes. He was funny sometimes. Sometimes he'd just sit there and look at you like, really? You know? What? And then he was the Mark that he would just all of a sudden come up with, I was working with the whatever, fill in the blank. I was working with this energy or that energy and stuff. Would anybody like an upgrade? And we'd say, yeah, we'll all take an upgrade. So he would spend time and go around and give us all. And sometimes you'd feel a little glimmer, and sometimes you'd go, boom, you know, it was, you know, whoosh, it would come out. And then he'd sit back down and he'd go, if anybody needs anything else, let me know. You know, I'm there. First time I met Mark, I was telling this earlier, Meredith heard me. Mark was not a hugger. Anybody who knows Mark, he was not really a hugger. And so I walked up to him because I'm a hugger. And I started to hug him, and all of a sudden I hear this growl. And I thought to myself, did I just hear him growl at me? You know, was that real? So I didn't hug him. And he was nice. He wasn't mad or anything like that. He just kind of looked at me, and I found out later he has wolves. And so that was the funniest thing to me, that either he growled at me or his wolves growled at me. But when we did energy later on, every now and then you'd get a growl from a wolf, and it wasn't him, it was his wolves. You'd get a picture of it in your head, and they're going, no, don't do that. But then later on, he got a lot more tolerant. He would let you hug him, and he didn't growl at you. So I will always remember that, because that was my first meeting with Mark, was when he growled at me when I tried to hug him. So anyway, but we loved him. We missed him.
Boss, you have some stories?
I'm looking at Mike and Glenn, and I'm like, they all three got stories.
Most
Yeah.
stories I would have was when we were younger.
Oh, we want to hear those.
We,
Yeah.
we traveled a little bit.
Not for children.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
We had a nice trip to Colorado and climbed up on a mountain and took a tour. We went about 3 weeks through Missouri and all that. It was a nice trip. That's about the most time I've spent one-on-one with him. We didn't have a lot of the same interests. So,
That's okay. That's not unusual.
yeah.
All right, Mike, come on. You've got to have some stories.
What I would say is what I'm going to miss them is last few years always coming over every Sunday to watch the Bengals. And if they weren't on during the day, we'd watch a movie, whatever. But I fought for a long time to let him, for him to let me hug him and tell him I love him. It took a long time. My brother Mike and sister Kim, all the time, that's all right. But Mark fought that for a long time. Finally, he is receptive to it. But I will miss him once September 11th kicks off. Well, I miss him now, but
I guess my only stories was as him being a brother, an older brother that sometimes wasn't real nice and working with him. But we used to pack together for many, many years, and he'd like to play little pranks on me. Now this is kind of rude, but like when the clients wasn't around, he'd come in my area and maybe pass some gas and then run. And so when the clients walked in, they'd kind of look at me like, and different things like that he would, tend to do. Or saying how he is a very good artist. He always could draw, and he draw a lot for the clients and that. And he'd say, "Yeah, my sister can draw too. She draws a lot of flies." And you know, those are the types of things.
That sounds about brother and
Yeah,
sister.
that's how we got along like that for many, many years of packing and that. So it was fun, but yes, sometimes quite embarrassing.
Oh, goodness.
Did any of you get to see his mini Mark? Mini Mark? So Mark had a photograph that was taken. I think he was doing an energy share at Donna's house, and he cut himself out of it. So it's truly was this big, and he would carry it in his wallet. And whenever he felt the need, he would bring Mini Mark. I'm sure Dave saw it a dozen times. He would bring Mini Mark out, and it might be for doing energy work, or it might just be for kicks and giggles. It does. I just don't know. Did you get Mini Mark? Do you know where it was? Okay, because I remember seeing it. It was with the wallet stuff, so it might be somewhere. Yeah, Mini Mark. Anybody else have something they would like to share?
I will probably become a very emotional mess here in a moment. But that's me. He was a good dude. I didn't always understand who he was or what he was doing or whatever, but his intentions were so positive, it was crazy. I feel like I know each one of you. Greg, he loved it when you went back to work at Pete's. He had a connection there. I feel like I know each one of you through him because he talked about you guys all the time. And it was always very, very positive and very, very, uplifting and all of that other kind of stuff and all the work that he was doing and how he was helping all these people and that kind of stuff. And you could not deny him that pleasure that he got from that and that energy and that effort that he put forth in that regard. I don't have to totally understand it to understand how important it was to him. But I think what happens is because of his knowledge and because of his brilliance as it related to that, as his time drew near, he was at peace with himself and he was very comfortable with what was happening, and it was not comfortable. He was very uncomfortable from a physical standpoint and that kind of thing. But mentally, being able to spend the time that I did with him, you saw where he was at peace and he understood the decisions that he was making. And I went in there the one day because he had texted me and he had said that he had made this decision. And I went in there that day and I was quite blunt with Mark, and I said, do you understand what you've chosen to do? And I said, Mark, I applaud you for being in a situation to do that, because oftentimes people don't have that choice. He was comfortable, he was at peace, he made that decision for himself, and I think that can all give all of us a little bit of peace and understanding as we share the stories that we talk about here today. He knew what was going on. He knew, and he was comfortable making the decisions that he made. He was a great guy to work with for all the years that I worked with him. And Kim will tell you, others will tell you that know me, this isn't about boss. Take that boss shit and throw it out the window. We work together. I couldn't have done what I did all those years at Tobin Brothers Moving and Storage without Mark, without Kim, without Meredith, without Jake, the times that he helped me, without, kids and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, it was the group of people that I worked with that made that whole thing successful, and we worked together. Mark was a great guy, and he was somebody that I enjoyed working with for many, many years. I wouldn't suggest you jump in his car and go for a ride
No.
at
You
Pleasant.
can't. There ain't no way. You ain't gonna get in there.
It's probably not safe, okay? I'll be more than happy to give you a ride. That's my story.
Can I just say, so when I visited, thank you for sort of paying attention to that uncomfortable, the most profound dichotomy. I go to the nurse's station, as we have to, and I say, what meds is he on? Because he's sort of uncomfortable. So it's pain meds, but no for anxiety. I say, what? No for anxiety as he's facing this. That is the connection. I call it the golden thread of love, the golden thread of eternity, and he had it. So I think one of the things he's asking us to do, and his life demonstrated, whatever we do to get a modality, an energy work modality under the belt is a must. If you go to church, fine. If you don't, it's whatever, fine with me. But energy modality is extremely important. It's not in vogue. It's not about anything. It's about the practical ways of living life, as he showed us. Thank you for sharing.
Anybody else? Everybody good? Okay.
Okay, we are going to go sprinkle some ashes in Mark's favorite place, which is here. And so Meredith would like to sprinkle them down by the water. So we will drum them down. Dave is going to help her with what is going to be obviously a difficult thing. So anybody who wants to come, you are welcome to. If you do not want to, have a seat. We'll be back.
No, the seeds.
Yeah, knife. There's a button on it.